The Center for Evidence-Based Corrections was started in 2005 in an effort to assist the California Department of Corrections in using evidence-based practices and policies in doing business with their programs. It's an opportunity for us to provide them not only with information about programs that work nationally, but also allows us to evaluate their own programs. Parole reform in California is basically two sides of a coin. Part of the coin is looking at people who are no longer going to be placed on parole supervision. They're going on to a non-revocable or summary parole. The flip side of it is that the higher risk, higher stakes folks are now being placed on smaller caseloads and being supervised in a manner that's consistent with the evidence base of engaging the client using cognitive behavioral techniques, motivational interviewing.
I think there are two things that the new parole model does for us. The first piece relates specifically to reducing our caseload sizes from currently 70 parolees for every one agent down to 48. And so that requires obviously hiring and training more staff. We're also changing and redefining how we deliver services to our parolees. And then we're also looking at how we do a better job of providing public safety.
One of the tools that we have in our toolkit now is we have an initial interview, and also we do a comprehensive interview. And then we can gather a lot more information about the parolee. One of the things is dynamic change patterns. Some things they can't change because they happened in the past, but some things they can think about more because they can change those things. Another really powerful tool that we have now too is case conferencing, where we're inviting the parolee to the case conference. It's going to definitely change his behavior. He's going to have to explain, the good things that he's done. Then it puts the impetus on the agent to make sure that we're supplying him with all the tools and the resources that he needs. It makes both sides a lot more motivated for him to do something positive.
One of the unique components about our evaluation of the new parole model is a behavioral study that we're doing, which is looking at how agents actually are incorporating the practices dealing with establishing a rapport, learning how to communicate with a parolee, and it's done with an electronic instrument which codes behavioral interactions.
We're using many research methods to evaluate the new parole model. We've conducted some baseline observations where we've measured the speech patterns of parole agents before the pilot site parole reform took place. So then we'll compare the speech patterns that we saw prior to parole reform with some follow-up observations to see whether the frequency and the patterns of speech have changed over time. Obviously it's very threatening for parole agents to have researchers following them around, basically recording their behaviour. They've been very receptive. They want parole reform to work, and they're just as interested in seeing the results as we are.
Non-revocable parole for California means that offenders that have never been convicted of a serious offense, they get released from prison, and rather than going on traditional parole, which requires supervision by a parole agent, they go on what's called non-revocable parole.
The NRP program has had a significant impact on my life. I don't have to stop my daily things that I'm doing as far as working and schooling to go and see a parole officer and missing out on the things that I need to make myself a more productive person in society. I believe it would really open up the door and allow people to become more productive and not feel that they had to return to a life of crime because they don't have the resources or the things that they need from the parole department to help them.
The true benefits to non-revocable parole is that our agents spend more time on serious and violent parolees, driving services and managing that population, as opposed to supervising low-level, non-serious, non-violent parolees. So in essence, we're putting our time and our effort supervising the most serious and most violent, as opposed to trying to supervise the entire population less effectively.
In the work that we do, it's very important to have collaborative relationships with the department. The department often knows about the policies they want to implement, but they're not real sure about the effectiveness. The center is able to provide the research evidence on what works and what doesn't work in these policies, and to use real-world data and statistics to help understand how things are going. By having a collaborative relationship, we understand the problem, we provide the evidence, and we work together to craft a solution.